Republicans, sit down. We have a little time. Just everybody. Thank you very much. And our great speaker, Speaker Johnson. And hello to the men and women of one of the most consequential Republican majorities in history. It's not a big majority, but it's just about the most consequential. The job you've done is incredible. And they are members that are warriors and really people that are for the American people, and that's why you're doing well, and I think that's why we're going to continue to do well. We're fighting a little tradition, you know, historically the person that wins, Democrat or Republican, wins the presidency. For whatever reason, it doesn't work out, but we've done a lot. I don't know, I think we had the best first year of any president ever, and that includes you. You came along with me, and you made it happen. So with your help and hard work, we're making America great again, and we're doing it much faster than we thought, and it's better, stronger, and our country is doing really well. I mean, at a level that nobody thought. We took a little excursion because we felt we had to do that to get rid of some evil, and I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion. How good is our military, right? Amazing. How good. Short term. Short term. Thank you. They're great. You know, we all together, in my first term, we rebuilt our military. And I didn't know I'd be using it so much in the second term, but we have a military like no other. It's not even close. But I especially want to recognize the rest of our amazing House Republican leadership team and so many of my friends that are congressmen, some senators. We have some great people in this room, but including Majority Leader, a real brave guy, because I know the real story. I was there that night with him in the hospital when he was given a very small chance of living by a doctor who was very good, by a wife who was desperately in love with him. She cried so much. Because I've seen the other two. I've seen guys at the end of the line, the wives aren't exactly shaken up. When they don't cry, when they have no tears or any sign of tears, this is not a good sign of a great marriage. But he must have a great marriage, because she was just devastated. She was going to lose her guy. But it worked out that the doctor said more blood was put into him than he's ever seen. He was in big trouble. I looked at him that night and I said goodbye to him, but he made it. He was brave, and look at the way he fought back from so many different things. Steve Scalise. Amazing, right? And we have another one, Tom Emmer, who I really got to know over the last few years, and I'll tell you, he's a winner. He's a champion with another great wife. We got good wives up in there. Let's say great wife, fine husband. But Tom is just a real champion and a winner, and you have a problem, you go to him, he gets it solved. So thank you very much. Great job. You've done a great job. And our conference chairwoman is Lisa McLean, and we all know Lisa. Don't get on her wrong side. It can be a very, very bad experience. Thank you very much. Great job, Lisa. Great job. And a very special thanks. You know, you broke a record. This is over 20 million. This is it's the biggest of these type of events that there's ever been, by a lot. You know, you didn't just break it, you broke it by a lot. So I want to congratulate you. But there's just great spirit. The Republican Party has fantastic spirit. The level, I don't think, has been seen before. I really don't. We have to get a couple of people on board, which, you know, at least one case is virtually impossible. I wonder who that might be. A sick person. But I want to say a very special thanks to everyone at the Congressional Institute for helping organize this event. This has been amazing. And over the past 9 days, we've been reminded of how vital our Republican majorities are. And it's, you know, it's America's future. We're really fighting because these people, you saw the other night at the State of the Union, you saw these people. They wouldn't stand for a mother who just lost her daughter by having her throat slit from behind. They wouldn't stand for the helicopter pilot who just got the Congressional Medal of Honor for landing safely in Venezuela, a helicopter with a lot of soldiers on that helicopter. And he was able to land it safely, and his leg was practically ripped off. And for those people that know about helicopters, you land them pretty much with your legs, right, Tom? You land them with the legs, and he was in bad shape, and he got that. Not only landed, he landed in exactly the right spot at exactly as blood was pouring down the aisle, which didn't make all of those soldiers in the back feel too good. They're looking at a pilot who's bleeding out. But they didn't want to stand for that. They didn't want to stand for a 100-year-old soldier who had left a legacy of bravery. Everybody talked about it for years, and it was time for him to get the Congressional Medal of Honor. They didn't want to stand for him. There's something wrong with those people, and we can't let them ever be in a position where they can lead this country again or destroy this country again, because we almost lost this country. This country was close to being lost. The representatives in this room provided the pivotal votes in securing a record $1 trillion for the United States military this year, and now the world is witnessing the importance of that investment with one of the most complex and stunning operations ever conducted, and that's Operation Epic Fury. That's a great name, isn't it? Epic Fury. That's even better than Midnight Hammer, which was pretty good too, right? That was where we knocked out their nuclear potential. That was a big day, because if we didn't do that, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. And I think we'd be in a lot different situation. And then you had, of course, what they did in Venezuela, how that was just so far so good. We've done a real job. We've got all good ones. If you go back and you look at Afghanistan with Biden, one of the worst, I think the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. If you look at what happened with Jimmy Carter, also with Iran, but if you look at what happened with the helicopters and the hostages, it cost them the election. It was what a mess. The world respects us right now more than they have ever respected us before. And because of Republicans, you people in Congress, the United States has by far the strongest and most powerful military on the face of the earth. We're the strongest military anywhere in the earth, and now everybody understands it. Together with our Israeli partners, we're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force. Iran's drone and missile capability is being utterly demolished. The Navy is gone. It's all lying at the bottom of the ocean. 46 ships, can you believe it? In fact, I got a little upset with our people. I said, what quality of ship? Excellent, sir. Top of the line. I said, why did we just capture the ship? We could have used it. Why did we sink them? He said, it's more fun to sink them. I said, they like sinking them better. They say it's safer to sink them. I guess it's probably true. But think of it, we knocked out 46, and actually took 3.5 days. Their terrorist leaders are gone, or counting down the minutes until they will be gone. Think of it, we had leaders, and they're gone. Then we had new leaders, and they're gone. And now nobody has any idea who the people are that are going to be the head of the country, and will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. And remember, Iran did so many bad things. They were really, if you look at Soleimani, who was taken out, as you know that, but you know who. But if you look at Soleimani, the father of the roadside, you call it a roadside bomb because most people don't understand the different terms. It was where they plant bombs in roads as you drive by, happily drive by, the bomb goes off, and no matter how strong the armament, it just kills the people. Or you lose your arms, legs, and face. And those bombs got worse and worse, and he got happier and happier, and we took him out. That was a big thing because he was the head. It might have been a much different story. They may have been much more capable than they are had he lived, because he was capable. He was vicious, violent, and capable. But we got rid of him first term. And we did so many things. I mean, we've done So many things, but as you know, on Saturday I traveled to Dover Air Force Base to be with the families of 6 fallen warriors as they returned to American soil. And I know that everyone in this room joins me in sending our prayers and eternal gratitude to the families of those great heroes. Those families are incredible families. Devastating to be. Hardest thing to do. You know, I've done it a lot. The hardest thing to do is to go to Dover, because Dover is where, for the most part, a lot of the fallen, the warriors, the great young people that have died in war, they seem to mostly go to Dover. They come home to Dover. Dover does a great job of handling things. They have men assigned to the family. They have men and women that are incredible, assigned to the families. It's a beautiful thing, but it's also a very sad thing. But they all said one thing to me: make sure you win, sir. Make sure you win. They weren't playing games. They want to make sure. They said it. Everybody said it. They were separate, but everybody said the same thing: make sure you win. We will. We've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. We go forward more determined than ever to achieve ultimate victory that will end this long-running danger once and for all. 47 years. It should have been done a long time ago. The world would have been a different place had some president had the courage to go and do it. They should have done it many, many times. They had many opportunities. The United States of America is the greatest and most exceptional nation in human history and will not be threatened by evil terrorists and lunatics any longer. We just can't do that. And, you know, when I always talk about how great our nation is, I don't know. I don't consider our nation very great for 4 years under Biden. We were a laughingstock all over the world. We were a laughingstock. So, you know, I say great, 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 but I don't know. When you look at what happened with so many different things, the open border, 25 million people, many of them very bad people pouring into our country with open borders that just said, come on in, makes no difference. They emptied their jails into our country. 11,888 murders, 50% of which murdered more than one person. The drug dealers came in. The mentally insane came in. They emptied their mental institutions. They emptied their insane asylum. That's a step above a mental institution. They emptied them all right into our country. And we've done a great job of doing what we've done. Think of it. We have the lowest crime rate that we've ever had. We have the lowest murder rate in 125 years. And we're saddled with all of the problems of the criminals that were let in. You know, look, they're smart people. I know the people that run those countries, every one of them. And they're all streetwise, very smart. And I would do exactly the same thing. They emptied their jails into our country. I said that was going to happen when I heard that they were having open borders. I didn't believe that they were going to happen. When I realized that they actually were going to have open borders, I said, we're going to have every person in jail. We're going to have every drug dealer. We're going to have all these countries all over the world. The Congo, they emptied their jails all the way from the Congo to all parts of South America, Asia. They sent in their people in jail, murderers. Some of the worst people on earth got sent into our country. And I'll tell you what, ICE is unbelievable, what they have to put up with and how tough they have to be. That goes for Border Patrol, and it goes for law enforcement, our law enforcement people. But sadly, even as our service members are fighting bravely to protect America abroad, the Democrat minority in Congress is deliberately sabotaging our national security at home. And you're going through it right now, fellas. I mean, you're going through, it's not even believable. You know, we should be very safe right now, especially when we're attacking somebody that's evil, bad intention. But last week, 53 House Democrats voted against a resolution affirming that Iran remains the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Who the hell would do that? I mean, almost every act, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah, no matter what, you take a look, it's Iran or Iran-sponsored. And even more outrageously, as we speak, Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security. They've got it shut down. Do you believe it? Right now. Because they care more about amnesty for illegal alien criminals than about protecting the lives of American citizens. I mean, take a look at it. The American citizen is being scoffed at by Democrats. it doesn't make sense. None of this stuff makes sense to me, you know, when they sat and they wouldn't stand up for incredible people. They just refused to clap, stand up. By the end of the speech, by the way, they were all standing because somebody was passing them. No, you people are getting killed tonight. They were all, they'd stand up for everything I was saying. At the end, that last half hour, they were standing up for things that they shouldn't have stood up for because they got the word, you're getting killed tonight. Stand up and clap for the woman that just lost her daughter, please, to a violent criminal. But Democrats must vote immediately to reopen the Department of Homeland Security so that we have the resources to keep America safe. And under our pro-America, pro-worker, pro-family agenda, our country is winning again and America is respected again. And I think we have a country that's as hot as it's ever been, ever before, maybe hotter. And I say it all the time. The king of Saudi Arabia said it to me better than anybody could say it. He said, you know, I get along with him very well, very smart person. He said, you know, a year and a half ago, your country was dead, absolutely dead. We never thought it was coming back. And now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's true. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world, by far. And that's before we showed off our military strength with Venezuela and now with Iran. You know, Iran was supposed to be this big, powerful country. We wrapped the hell out of them. And, you know, I don't know when they cry uncle, but they should have cried it 2 days ago, right? But they don't have anything left. In our country, inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising. The economy is surging. Our border is the most secure at any time in American history. And the murder rate is the lowest in 125 years. That's before my father was born. My father was born 6 years later than that. I don't know if he'd like me to say that. Never liked to talk about his age. He said, don't talk about that. But think about 125 years ago, 1900, the year 1900. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election. And it's going to go a lot higher as soon as we get rid of this stuff that we're doing right now, that we really had no choice. I mean, I think I asked people, I said, would you rather do this or would you rather go along nice and smoothly, but eventually have a catastrophe the likes of which perhaps the world has never seen? And just about everybody says, except for lunatics, said, no, you had to get it done. Should have been done a long time ago. The average 401k is up almost $35,000. Think of that. It's at the best they've ever done. And I think you're going to see some real numbers when this gets, because this was always a dark cloud hanging over not only Israel, which was going to get wiped out. You know, if we didn't do that B-2 attack, Israel would have been wiped out. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks after that. And even now, I think they were looking to take over the Middle East, because when you look, and we have pretty good proof, all of those missiles that were so stupidly aimed at Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, they were all aimed, and others, at countries that were sort of like, leave us alone. They were all right. They were sort of neutral, but they weren't doing it. All of a sudden, they're getting hit with missiles. And they could have gone one of two ways. They could have gone toward their side, like we're with you, or they could have gone with our side, and they really went with our side, and they've helped us, and they've been a big force. But they got hit. But they were going to be hit with us. Had we not done the B-2 raid, and if we not done this one where we said, nope, it's time to go in, we have to go in, have no choice. Number one, if we didn't go in, they would have come in after us, because I see the Democrats trying to justify it, and they're failing because the voter on the street is saying, you got to be kidding. But I see where they're going, where they're always saying, no, there was no reason. Well, I'll give you the best reason of all. Within a week, they were going to attack us 100%. They were ready. They had all these missiles, far more than anyone thought. And they were going to attack us. But they were going to attack all of the Middle East and Israel. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it on Israel. And this was going to be a major attack. And they had all of those missile sites and all those launchers that we got rid of, about 80% of them right now, by the way. Got rid of most of the, see it's died down to a trickle. There are very few launchers left. What our military has done is amazing. They wiped out almost 20%, maybe 22, 23%, but the rest are going very quickly. And the missiles have been largely knocked out. The drones have been knocked down, and we're hitting where they make the drones. We know them all, and we're knocking the hell out of that now where they manufacture the drones. A lot of work, a lot of brilliant work, but we're going to have a much safer world as soon as it's finished, and it's going to be finished pretty quickly. With the help of our House Republican majority, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history, and we have to be talking about it. And with the great, big, beautiful bill, we delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we did something else which is great that nobody ever talks about, Tom, and we have to talk about it. We made interest on auto loans fully deductible. That's never happened. We've never had that. You know, rich people always get deductions, but middle-income people, people that have to struggle a little bit, never did. But now they can deduct the interest paid against their taxes. We have one little proviso, and I put this on, it's very important, only if the car is made in America, all right? That's going to have a huge impact. That's going to have a huge impact. We passed the Trump accounts to give every child in America a head start on the American dream, and that's so good. It was, I'll tell you, the Dell family, Dell computer, put up $6,250,000,000. Think of it. He started with very little, nothing, very, very little. Started making computers on his bed. And he said, yeah, people started liking them better than the ones from the store. And he never stopped. And he can write a check for $6,250,000,000. He said, and his incredible wife, Susan, they said that's the best thing they've ever done. He's so proud. He's going to do it again. Going to do more. And we have a lot of other people. A lot of very rich people are doing it. A lot of people that aren't so rich are doing it. They're doing it for their kids, but it's turning out. So a young child turns 18 or 21, and all of a sudden they have $100,000 in the bank. What a difference that is between having that and having nothing. And it could be more than that. It could be a lot more depending on what happens with the world. And we passed 100% expensing and bonus depreciation on all new equipment, factory construction and investments, and that's what made our first term. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country in the first term, and this one's going to blow it away. Again, we had a little pause, but it's not a very big pause. With your help, we also passed the largest regulation cuts in American history, ending the Green New Scam, one of the greatest scams in history, and massively increasing production of American oil, natural gas, and clean, beautiful coal. We brought coal back. You're not allowed to say coal without clean, beautiful. Got to be clean, beautiful. China uses coal. They're building about 65 massive coal plants right now. But China, great respect for China, but you know, they make all the windmills, right? The only thing they don't do is use the windmills. They make them. But try finding wind farms in China. There aren't too many of them. In my State of the Union address, I laid out an ambitious agenda that should be our roadmap this year, and it's starting with lowering the cost of living. You know, they gave us a mess. We inherited a mess, an absolute mess. And the mess was many things. They were bad with our military. They were bad with everything. I mean, I said, name one thing that they did right. They can't name one thing. But they also gave us very high prices. And then they said the word affordability. That's the first time I ever heard it. They said affordability. My first day in office, they said affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem, but we're really bringing down prices big. Do you notice you don't hear that word anymore, Mike? They don't say it anymore because we brought down prices so much. So our message is simple. Democrats created the high prices, and our policies are totally ending them, and they're ended, and we're doing better. We're even bringing them down further. They'll be way down, and we're bringing, you know, if you go back into the last period, I would say, I think it's 2.5 months, 1.7% inflation. 3 months, 1.45% inflation. Think of that. Whereas they had the highest inflation in the history, the single highest inflation in the history of our country. Now, you know, I always say this. They say 48 years because I don't want the fake news to get me on this. They say it wasn't history, it was 48 years. that the inflation was the highest in 48 years. But I don't know, in some ways 48 years sounds even worse because it's very specific. Yeah. But they had the highest inflation probably in history, but in 48 years, we inherited that. One of the first targets must be the crushing healthcare. We have to crush and take over the healthcare situation, which we can do. For the first time, we can do it since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act. Big insurance companies have gotten rich. They've made money like practically no other companies have made, with our government giving them hundreds of billions of dollars and their stock prices soaring to up to 1,700%, 1,000%, 1,200%, 1,600%, and even 1,700%. The government gave them essentially trillions of dollars. And I want that money to be paid to the person, not to the insurance company, and let them go out and buy their own health care. And people love it. People love it. You'll get better health care at a much lower cost, and they'll be sort of part of the system. But the money we spend on is so much. We spend numbers that nobody could even believe. But the healthcare companies, because the Democrats are owned by the insurance companies, remember that. And so they have a problem. That's why it's hard to get it fixed, because they are totally owned and controlled by the by the insurance companies. Healthcare insurance, but the insurance companies themselves. So when you want to do something that's good for the people but bad for the insurance companies, it's very, very hard for them to go in a different way. Now, Republicans never do that kind of thing, right? You're owned by nobody, right? Nobody. See, a young girl up here say yes. Some of them are a little bit shaky, but they're Republicans. We love them. We love them anyway, right, Mike? But they are owned by those big, powerful insurance companies that are making a fortune, and it's hard to get them to do the right thing. They know what the right thing is. So we want the money to be paid directly to the people and let the people go out and buy their own health care. And people love it. They love it. We can own the issue. For the first time ever, Republicans can own that issue. I'm also asking you to take swift action to codify my most favored nation policy on drug prices, the biggest. That alone should win the midterms. We have, and I tell this story all the time, my first term, third year, I actually had a slight, it was 0.25% decline in drug prices. First time in 28 years. I was so proud. I went home, told our great First Lady, who's now a movie star, I got the biggest, can you believe this? That movie was hot, and it is hot. She became a movie star. It was a good movie. But I went home and I said, you know, it's amazing. We do so well. We work so hard. This issue is the single biggest issue. Okay. I had a news conference, I'm embarrassed to say, a long time ago, my first term, third year, because I went up to a level that I did things that nobody's ever done. 28 years, I brought it down 0.25%. Now I brought it down 80%, 90%, 75%, depending the way it's driving the fake news crazy because I say 400%, 500%, 600, depending on the way you want to talk about it, if you want to talk about pricing. But using a conservative number, what we've done is we paid the highest price for drugs anywhere in the world, and now we pay the lowest price for drugs anywhere in the world. We are tied for the lowest price. Whoever has the lowest price, that's what we pay. And I did that through tariffs. We had a little disappointing decision, to put it mildly, from the Supreme Court. Terrible decision for the people, but the good news is I have lots of other ways of doing the same thing. I just have to work a little harder. They want me to work harder, but we're doing the same thing with a lot of work. But I used tariffs to get this because I went to other countries. The drug companies were not easy, but I got them. And I said, we're not paying. We were paying for a pill $130 that in London and Germany and different places you'd pay $10. So we were paying 13 times more. They're paying $10, we're paying $130. And the drug companies, I called them in. We had a rough time, but it wasn't that bad. And they agreed because they knew that I couldn't get the countries. You had to get the countries to approve it. And I called up, and you've heard me say this a couple of times, not often, but I called the countries up. I called up France. I said, Emmanuel, you have to cut your good friends from America a reasonable deal. What's happening is you are paying a tiny fraction for drugs. No, Donald, I cannot do anything about that. I said, you can. He said, no, I will not do it. I will not do it. Because he'd have to raise his pill from $10 to $20 and maybe even $30. Ours would come down from $13, $130 down to $20. Think of that, from $130. That's what you're going to get, from $130 to $20. But he has to double his price from $10, and they were the boss. I said, no, you will. No, Donald, I cannot do that. And I heard this from all the other countries too, very elegant people. And they were saying, no, we cannot do this. We will not do this. I said, yes, you will, 100%. No, we will not. Because, they have to double up their prices. And I said, well, here's the story. If you don't do it, I'm going to put, in the case of Emmanuel, I said a 100% tariff on all wines and champagnes coming into the United States. No, Donald, you cannot do that. I said, I've already got the legislation. It's right in front of my desk. I'm going to sign it. Emmanuel. He said, Donald, I will agree to this. So he agreed. Everybody agreed. I got every country to agree. And now you've done something that no other president could have done. No, I don't want to brag. But, they've said this about a lot of things. No other president could do some of this shit I'm doing. No other president. The things I'm doing, nobody else was going to do it. They say it all the time, sir, could you do this? You're the only one can do it. But we got it done, and we got the countries to all go along. Because I said, if you don't do it, I'm going to raise your tariffs to 200%, to 150%, and that's 10 times more than I'm asking for. And every single one, if it took me 5 minutes, that was like a long time. I was doing badly with that one. So now we have most favored nation pricing into permanent law, and you should codify it. But I don't care that much about codifying it, because what politician is going to agree to increase drug prices by 500%, okay? So, but it's still good to have it codified. Don't you agree? They're saying, sir, we have to codify it. I said, that's okay, but I'm not. Other things you should codify. That I can tell you. This one you should codify, because you want to take credit for it. You want to take credit for it. So if you can, please codify it. Get out there and codify. You're getting an 80%, 85%, 55%, 70% reduction in drug prices. Codify it. But if you don't, no president's going to raise it, in my opinion. Although they are crazy, these people are crazy. They could find a way. You better get it codified. And as we work to bring down interest rates so that more Americans can afford a house, I'm also asking you to ban the Wall Street firms, large Wall Street firms, institutional investors, from buying up thousands and thousands of single-family homes, hundreds of thousands of homes, because homes really are for people, not for hedge funds. We want to get the market out so they can do it, and we're stopping it. We want people to be able to buy a house. It's the American dream. Buying a house is a part of the American dream. And we must also stand up for the safety of our citizens. One of my guests at the State of the Union was Anya Zarutska, the mother of beautiful 23-year-old Ukrainian girl who was stabbed to death on a train in North Carolina by a deranged criminal, arrested more than a dozen times. And I had the mother, as you know, at the State of the Union, and she was devastated. Beautiful woman, devastated. Uncontrollably devastated. And we couldn't get one Democrat to even clap. The Republicans clapped and went wild, and they loved her. Not one Democrat in that whole room even thought about clapping. They sat there frozen-faced. Disgusting. House Republicans should get every member of Congress on record and pass a tough new crime bill that imposes harsh penalties for dangerous repeat offenders, which this nut was. cracks down on rogue judges and prosecutors, and ends no cash bail once and for all. No cash bail is a big part. I mean, you have a man murder somebody, and by that afternoon, he's out on bail. No cash bail. It's a huge problem. We also need to end deadly sanctuary cities, and you have bills before you now, and you're working on things, but hopefully you can do that, Mike, because it's terrible. They're sanctuary for criminals. That's all they are, sanctuary for criminals. They fight ICE all the time. That was the problem up in Minnesota. They had a lot of criminals in there. They wouldn't give it to us. And to stop illegal aliens who cannot even speak English from driving 18-wheel tractor trailers. They have no idea what they're reading. I wouldn't be able to do it in their countries. There's arrows, there's speed limits. They have no idea what they're reading. And in many cases, they're on drugs on top of that. We need to ban any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Have to do it. And I want to thank House Republicans for passing another common sense measure. I would think it's the easiest thing. I just told Mike. You know, you were at $19 million. I have to say this because I've never contributed. I was a huge contributor for years and years. Once I became president, I never contributed any money because the greatest thing about being president is I no longer have to contribute. Nobody ever asked me for money. They asked me for my endorsement. I've endorsed just about everybody in the room. But keep winning, right? Yeah. 124-0 this Tuesday. 124 wins, no losses. Is that good? And there were some rebels. We endorsed a few rebels, right? A few that Mike was saying, it's going to be a tough one. But we're 124-0. But as president, nobody ever asked me for money. And as president, you know, like as president, you sort of don't make campaign contributions. Right? Doesn't even. But I heard you were at $19 million today. I said, has that ever been done? No, sir, it's a record, but 20 would sound better, right, Mike? Yes. He said, I'm going to give you $1 million. It's the first time I've done that. I never did it before. I never did it before. I never did it before. Now I'll be hit up by every political group, every Republican running. Sir, can I have some, give me a little cash. I'll have Emmer come up to me and say, how about a little cash for my campaign? I will no longer have the excuse that as president, anyway, no, but we had to hit the 20, right? We had to hit the 20. That was a hell of a thing. You beat it by a lot. You beat the record, the previous record by a lot. But I want to thank House Republicans for passing another common sense measure, to me, the easiest of all, the Save America Act, to protect our sacred American. Look at this. Look. It's the easiest thing we have. I can't, it's the easiest thing we have. Now, the problem is you call it the SAVE Act, and nobody knew what the hell the SAVE Act. Have you been seeing, I've been working overtime the last month. It's called the, capital the Save America Act. And I saw Schumer yesterday, we will stop Save America. He's getting killed. They can't do it. And then the things within the Save America are so good. But just the title. So we had that with MAGA. Greatest name of all time. Make America Great Again. MAGA. It just worked. You know, I had something, Keep America Great. It was good, but it didn't have that MAGA. You know, there was nothing you could see. I had CAG. And CAG, I said, you know, no longer, that's not good. But MAGA is great, and we'll always respect MAGA. We love MAGA. We're never going to let you down with MAGA. But this one's even better if you think about it. This says, America. We're going to save America. The Save America. How can they fight us? The Save America Act. And I've watched them. I watched Schumer, who's horrible. What a horrible politician. He is now a Palestinian officially. He is registered as a Palestinian. He's taken the biggest turn of any human being I've ever seen. He's gone from totally pro-Israel to totally pro-Palestinian. He wants to protect the Iranian people that are quite nasty. But it's very simple. All voters must show the act, voter ID. Ready? This is not complicated. Voter identification. Now, I have a whole list, but I don't want to put, I have like hundreds of things on the list. If you go shopping, if you do this, if you buy a car, if you license a car, if you point to everything you need to have identification. So all voters have to show identification, ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. So you have ID and you have citizenship. So far, good. No mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. Mail-in ballots are a disaster. Jimmy Carter, the best thing he ever did, he headed a commission after he was president. It was the single best thing, and he did a thing on mail-in ballots. He said mail-in ballots should not be allowed because they are inherently dishonest. And we have seen it time and time again, and we just keep going with it. And I put that down as a top three. Look, no mail-in. Now, you have the exceptions for the military, and I would even say foreign-based military. But for the military, for disability, for illness, and if you're traveling, you have an excuse. And I was lenient on that. But those three things. Then I added two more. These are best of, best of. These are called best of Trump. We should also add on to this bill. And so what I've asked Mike to do is to draw a new one with these few things added. And let's go for the gold. Let's not just get one like voter ID, but, it can be given to you by your daughter. Your daughter, she has to be of age, like above 6 years old, she's allowed to say. You had to see some of this stuff is so bad. They're doing everything possible because they know if we get this, they probably won't win an election for 50 years, okay? And maybe longer. And they're going to fight like hell. But boy, do they get killed. Because even the Democrats, you saw the numbers today, Democrats voted 86% that this stuff should be passed. The Democrats. With Republicans, you're at 98%. But Democrats are at 86, except for the people that run the Democrat Party, because they want to try and win elections illegally. It's the only reason you vote against voter ID is because you want to cheat. There's no other reason. They come up with reasons. They say, it's racist. That's their number one, racist. Then you have to explain it, and they're just sitting there mumbling. They can't explain it. And it's actually very insulting when they use the term racist. Very insulting to the people that they're trying to so-called defend, but they're not defending. Then I wanted to add two more to it because they're, I say 95%, maybe 100%. No men in women's sports, very simple. Add that in. And I wanted to add in one other, I'm not even adding in no open borders because, there's some people that like open borders. These people are crazy, but that's okay. Because I want 5 things that are like close to 100%. No transgender mutilation surgery for our children. You can't have transgender for our children. So those 5 things. 5 things. Voter ID, citizenship, mail-in ballots, no mail-in ballots. Right? We don't want men playing in women's sports. That's got to be about close to 100%. We don't want men playing in women's sports and no transgender mutilation of our children. Now, that should be the easiest thing to get past that you've ever had. Each one, it's best of Trump. Those are best of Trump. I have some that are very popular, but I wouldn't put them in that category. This is the number one priority. It should be for the House. And I'd like to ask Tom, Steve, Mike, all of you, if you would, I'd like to have you go back and Lisa, hello, darling. She was screaming her affirmation of what I said. The kid went wild. She was so happy that somebody finally said, let's vote on this. Lisa, you're going to get it done. Okay, I'm going to count on you. Forget the men up here. I'm going to count. Deal. But it's actually a matter in a serious way of national survival. We can't have these elections going on like this anymore. You use paper ballots. If right now they have watermark, it's so safe, it's so good. You put it, it gets under a light. It says, a code. It's very, very hard to cheat. Another thing, and I don't even bring this up, it costs 7% the cost of those crazy machines. You know, I love the machines where they get the machines, they spend all this money, and they announce during the election that the tabulation will go along for another 3 weeks, right? With mail-in voting, you know, there's not a country in the world that does mail-in ballots anymore. They tried it. France tried it. It failed. They go to paper ballots. They're all doing paper ballots right now. Most of them are doing paper ballots, except us. And nobody is doing what we're doing. And there's no elections so corrupt as the elections in the United States of America. And we can solve them with this. And the reason I put those other two that have not much to do with it is because they are equally popular. And I think it might help us. And for those people that like Pfizer, I said maybe you put them together because a lot of people feel very strongly about Pfizer. Some people don't, but the people that want it, they really want it. And generally, for whatever reason, they're opposed to what we're saying about, you know, about the ballots and about citizenship and all of those things. And so put them together and you might get a vote, but we have to get it done. And then we have to get the Senate to do it. But if you could send a bill up to the Senate, we're going for the gold. We don't want what was said. The SAVE Act, it was all right. Nobody knew what the hell it was, including me. I kept saying, what's this? Save America Act. Don't ever say SAVE Act again. It's a loser. The SAVE Act. Nobody has any idea what are we trying to save? It's the Save America Act. If you could send it up in full form, meaning just straight, we will, I think the Senate has to approve it. I really do. I think, and they're going to have to go the filibuster, and maybe it's going to be the talking filibuster like the old days, the great Jimmy Stewart, right? Remember the great movie, Jimmy Stewart? But they have to get it done, because if we don't get this done, if it takes you 6 months, I'm for not approving anything. I'm for not approving anything. I don't think we should approve anything until this is approved. And they can't win politically. Look, you have them in a corner, and they're listening to every word I'm saying, and it doesn't matter, because they can't win it politically. Because when they say, we don't want voter identification, we don't want proof of citizenship, all these things are just losers for them. And they won't be able to withstand it. Just like at the State of the Union, they started clapping at the end. I said that. And the reason, because politically, you have to stand for these great people that were being. And the word came out from people watching it on television, you guys are getting killed. And this is an even bigger example. So if I could ask the people in this room to go for the gold. We're going for the gold. We're not going for the bronze. We're not going to sign a watered-down version like has been sent up there. Let's go for the gold, and let's just not accept anything else. I'll tell you what, I'm willing to just sort of say I'm not going to sign anything until this is approved. I really am. That's how bad it is. And we're going to have to push the Senate, because you have 4 or 5 senators that are, I don't know, 4 or 5 Republican senators. You'll have to explain them to me, but we're not going to get into that. But we're going to push them to get it done, because I don't think you can politically exist if you're not going to do voter ID and these things. I don't think the people in this country will stand for it. So I'm making my biggest plea tonight. It'll make you, and I'm not doing it for this reason at all. It'll guarantee the midterms. It'll guarantee the midterms. If you don't get it, big trouble, my opinion. If you get this, your midterms, and they know it. For 2 reasons. Number one, they won't be able to cheat. And number 2, the people are demanding it. Every time I go out, Save America, sir, Save America Act. We want the Save America Act, sir. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about housing. They don't talk about anything. That's what they talk about. And if you send it up there, you're going to win the midterms at levels that you can't even believe. And you're going to win every election for a long time until somebody really screws things up, and hopefully that won't happen. But I've never been more confident that if we keep these promises and deliver on this popular agenda, the American people will stand with us in overwhelming numbers, just as they did in 2024. I heard Mike say it's actually 78 million votes, but it was actually 86. You know, they cheated like hell on the list, but it was too big to rig. Remember? I won 3 times. First time was great. Second time, they cheated like hell. It was COVID. And their cheating was at an inspirational level. We can't let that ever happen again. And then they cheated again in the last election, but I went up. The term I used most was too big to rig. You got to go out, don't believe, because we had polls having us way up. I said, don't believe the polls, go out and vote. Make it too big to rig. And that's what happened. A couple of races they cheated on, they got away with it. A couple of Senate races, my opinion. But we have to make it too big to rig, and that's what we did. But we shouldn't have to win an election that way. You're going to have a hard time winning elections that way. So you got to get that passed. And if we fight, we will win, and we will make our country safer and stronger and richer and greater than it ever has been before. And I want to say, very importantly, because they would like you not to say this, because this is a terrible thing in their opinion to say, God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.